to get back in school. And we want to send the message to everyone that we want our kids back. There's no question about it. And really, it just comes down to the details. And that's the part that we're all working out together. And we appreciate the dialogue tonight. I appreciate George's email, because I think it's important to hear the voices of staff members too in this process. And we're going to give it a go for March 22nd. And we can't wait to see our 7th, 8th, and 12th graders in the 4+1 model starting that day.
Yeah,
if I can just say real quick, I thank you for listening and giving the conversation that you did. I appreciate it. And we'll make sure we have a good start.
Thank you, George. We know you will. Thanks. The next item on our agenda then is item 2.6, which is school board reports. I know we'll be hearing from the Finance Committee later on in our agenda, but is there any other updates from the Finance Committee?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Operations met today. Board member Tiff and Derrick's were there with myself. We talked about the Twin Bluff Middle School playground. Aaron Augustine came on there and talked about a nature playground, natural playground. So they're going to look at putting that alongside the building there. Totally funded and granted through the state. Same time, Mr. Palmetier and others, Kevin and Alan were there too, talking about the grounds part of the traditional playground that we're exploring in front of the building where the Peace Garden is. And they've met with the City of Red Wing, and the City of Red Wings have it on their agenda for tonight's meeting, the discussion about doing engineering and working kind of the preparation of the site there. We discussed quite a bit of detail about when and how we should go forward. Going forward, the funds will be around $150,000 or more, and there's really some hope of getting some fundraising going on. And so it looks like it may be as early as that next fall, but more realistically next summer for that to look to actually happen if this board down the road approves that today. They're not. I don't believe we're quite ready for that going forward yet. With that, though, we had a little update on the HBC contract at the tower and the number of strands that are coming to the school and the red line version back and forth to the between the attorneys. Also, they're looking at, just an FYI, on the sound, improving the sound system and hub to hall. That's some issue with frequency and that, getting that, and there's some other spots that they're just exploring, but right now it's just informational only. And then Brent came, we didn't give him ample time to discuss his 5 and 10 year plan, but he has it in his budget. He's just informing us that he's going to purchase some convection ovens that are 27, 28 years old, and now is a good time to do it because the price is really slashed due to usage from COVID. So, Board Member Tiff or Board Member Derrick, anything you'd like to add?
I think you covered it good, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I have a quick question, Pam, for the operations people.
Sure.
What's the natural playground? I know bits and pieces, but I don't know enough. And someone in the community asked me, and I'm like, I don't know.
They have flowers, native flowers. They have a hollowed out log kids can crawl through, some stump cut pieces of wood and walk along on. Just a natural type of playground for natural surroundings and not traditional monkey bars, swing set, and all that. And it's something that has to be kind of maintained. And there's a group Alan has been approached by a church group that'd be interested in doing some type of help of the school district, and he's going to explore that as somebody to help maintain that and upkeep it and keep it going to clean up and different things, because it does take maintenance to.
How big is the radius?
We're looking at putting it alongside between the at the middle school where the staff parks and the building up on top. There's some green space there that I could put it between that and the building there. And so that'll serve that in the meantime until the traditional playground is explored and either approved or by this board. So.
Yeah, and that area is about 80 feet by 120 feet.
Good sized pole barn, by the way. 80 by 100. There's a lot of machinery in there. So enough with the operations. Thank you.
Well, and actually, Holly, on the operations committee, if you look on the board book, there's a rendering of it there. So I found that really helpful to just look at for visualization. You can see kind of how they've laid it out. That was very helpful for me too. So another resource.
It also lays out the background as to the grant that Live Healthy Red Wing got and why they're granting it to us.
Oh, cool. Okay. I know a lot more now.
Anything, Holly, from finance that you want to touch on here right now?
No, because we have a lot of it coming up later. So
Gotcha.
sorry, Jim, did you want to?
Yeah, sorry.
Nikki, Jim, Nikki.
I can wait with the rest of it.
All right. Legislative and Policy Committee?
We are not meeting until 1 week. 1 week.
Gotcha. The Personnel Committee met this afternoon, and we talked about administrative coverage due to absences. That's a springboard to talk about a bigger issue, which is a succession plan. And so the committee will be digging into drafting something that we can bring back to the full board about that. Jen Grove, principal at Burnside, came and talked about flexible learning days and how starting next school year and beyond, when we have a snow day, we'll be able to use flexible learning days in place of that. And so it's a draft, but there's a great outline and summary under our personnel committee meeting if you'd like to look more into that. We talked about having a framework or under superintendent negotiations to kind of coincide with the evaluation, and so more to come on that. And we talked about, Don Wettern came and talked about the community recreation coordinator. That position has been rebanded from 16 to 18 points and gone from a category C to a B. And for our information, we're going to hopefully have a rebanding 101 at our next personnel committee meeting, so we really fully understand and can learn and kind of embrace what rebanding means so that we can put that in better context. And I think that is it for now. Anything I missed, Holly or Jennifer? Negotiations committee, we're still working with the custodians and the cooks, and we've been on kind of a pause on both of those right now, but we're setting up a meeting to resume with the custodians here in the next coming week or two. Any other board committees that anyone would like to share about?
The equity committee met today and completed going through that kind of self-assessment, and Jess will be kind of putting together the summaries from that, and that will go to Karsten and then be kind of incorporated into a 5-year equity plan. So that's basically where that is at. Great. But we should, as a board, see that information as a whole fairly soon.
Great. That's wonderful to hear. Exciting. Any other board updates?
GCED I attended the meeting for this last month in place of Holly. They went back to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on February 22nd for all grades K through 12. And let's see, they approved the paraprofessional contract for GCED, not ours, but GCED's paraprofessional contract was approved at the meeting. Bus transportation, they were informed no longer can school districts transport students to their school from out of their district. They can only go as far as their district lines. It's called open enrollment transportation. And that's pretty much a quick summary of what took place at that meeting.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, then I will turn it over to Karsten for his administrative report.
Okay, I'll just highlight two of the topics that are in my report. First of all, Marcia Walker will be Red Wings' next special education director. She's worked as a special education administrator in Columbia Heights since 2014, and she'll be starting on April 5th. Also, I did send this notice out to board members, but want to let everyone know that I did submit a letter of support for a grant being submitted by Osseo Public Schools. If it's approved by the United States Department of Education, we will be able to do a number of activities related to Native American education, including the hiring of a Dakota teacher for at least 4 years. And that would be paid for by the grant. You know, I'd like to thank Shelley Buck for first working with Osseo Public Schools as far as coming up with the grant ideas, and also for emphasizing that she wanted Red Wing Public Schools to be part of it. So Nikki, if you can pass that thank you on to Shelley, it's much appreciated. And you know, I spoke with Jess Whitcomb and George Nemenich. We're all excited about the possibilities, and we think it's a strong grant request, and I just hope that people in Washington feel the same way. And that's all I have.
Thank you for doing that, Karsten. That's great news. Holly.
I was just wondering if we could get a copy of the letter that you submitted, Karsten.
Oh, I didn't send that to you?
Did you?
Maybe not. The answer is yes. I'll send it to board members.
Okay, yeah, I figured you just forgot to put it in the agenda or the packet. But
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you wrote and how we can support. So thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to pull or change from the consent agenda? If not, then I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made by Holly, seconded by Jennifer. Any other discussion? All right, then we'll take a roll call vote. This time we will start with Anna Ostendorf.
Aye.
Holly Tower.
Aye.
Jennifer Tift.
Aye.
Jim Bryant.
Aye.
Nikki Buck.
Aye.
Arlen Derricks.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so that passes 7-0. Resolution accepting donations and grants. Superintendent Anderson.
Sorry about that. I was looking for the letter of support, thinking I'd get ahead of the game. But the donation and grants section of the board packet is particularly important, especially when we can highlight those who have made donations to the school district. And today, the resolution includes donations from United Lutheran Church for $250 for the Sunnyside winter clothing, Red Wing Public Schools Foundation for just over $2,500 for a Fish and Wildlife grant, And then also the Lombard Love to Read Legacy Fund of the St. Paul and Minnesota Foundation for just under $4,000 for providing books to Red Wing elementary schools. So again, I'd like to thank those organizations for the donations.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the 3 donations as stated.
Motion made by Jim. Do I have a second?
Anna, second.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll start with Holly Tower. Roll.
Aye.
Yeah. Jennifer Tift.
Aye.
Mr. Bryant.
Aye.
Ms. Buck.
Aye.
Mr. Derricks.
Aye.
Ms. Ostendorf.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. The resolution passes 7-0. It's always humbling when we get to this part of the agenda because it's definitely, we couldn't do it without all these great partners and people coming forward and helping us. So that's really warming. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is the revised budget.
All right. Good evening, board members. Just give me a second here. I'm going to present my screen. All right. Let me know when you see the budget document come up there for you.
It's there.
It's there. All right. So there is an entire budget document. I'm only going to talk about the summary on the first page. We have reviewed this both at our January and February Finance Committee meetings. I'll shrink it down here a little bit so it can all fit on the screen. Maybe not. What this revised budget shows and how it changed from the adopted budget is we have added, we're up to 9 online teachers right now. We have also added 2 custodians and other expenses to run the district due to COVID. We have also decreased our student enrollment another 40 students. So we've added expenses and we've also decreased our revenue. You can see, I don't know if you can see my cursor, in the general fund, we're going to end up using just a little over $1 million. Of that though, 557, almost 560,000 is a planned spend down of the long-term facilities maintenance money. We planned to spend this money to improve the Burnside parking lot and pave surfaces. So this was a planned spend down. We are also doing a little spend down in operating capital and in the unassigned fund, about $394,000 of spend down in the unassigned fund balance fund. This is where our general operations are in that unassigned fund balance. Food service fund, we are looking to add about $72,000 to their fund balance, bringing it to $322,000. Now, talk about this a little bit. Food service does have fund balance restrictions. We are starting to encroach on those. We talked a little bit of operations about some equipment Brent is planning to purchase that will help us stay away from that fund balance limit. And it is needed equipment. Community ed in total, they have the restricted up here, which does include the ice arena and Cobble Kids are probably the biggest programs in the restricted. And then they have the restricted reserves. In total, community ed is looking to gain about $29,000. And that's only due to some furloughs and layoffs that community ed has had to do to balance their budget this year. Construction fund, we are continuing to spend down the 2016 referendum, the building referendum. One of the projects we approved at the last board meeting, the Sunnyside kitchen wall, will be coming out of these funds. And then we have our debt service funds, the custodial fund, which includes the ELC and scholarships, our clinic fund, and our OPEB trust. And as you go through the budget here, there is a sheet for revenue and a sheet for expenses on each fund with comments at the bottom of the major changes we have had from the adopted budget to the revised budget. Are there any questions for me to address at this point?
You're doing
Back up
great.
to the sum. Thank you. If there would be no questions, I would ask for a motion of approval.
Wait. Yes. I'm trying to go to the agenda so I can read it. I move to approve the 2021 revised budget as presented.
I second that.
All right, motion made by Holly, seconded by Jennifer. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I forgot to ask this earlier. We had COVID revenues, I think, different monies from the state and federal government coming in. Where is that showing, or does that show on this at all, or?
If we go into page 2 where it breaks down the general fund revenue summary, we've received $987,000 to date. We are scheduled to get more from the legislation that passed in December, but it has not been released yet, so it is not included in this budget.
Okay, so the revenues will probably be higher at the end of the year than what is shown here now. So we'll have a better looking revenue versus expense for the year.
Yes, and if it's a major shift, we will prepare another revised budget for your consideration.
Thank you.
Yeah, we discussed that in detail, and we're hoping it's a large amount. So we just didn't want to get y'all excited, but we're hoping.
Is there any projection whatsoever? I mean, can we? have any
Preliminarily, we're looking at somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 million, but it needs to cover us through the next couple years.
Yes. Okay.
And then Jackie, just to clarify, that's one sum of money coming from the federal government, but in addition, the COVID relief plan that may pass the House and may be signed by the governor this week would include additional money over and above that amount. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is, if the package is passed, there is additional money earmarked for things like summer school.
All right, so the motion is on the table to approve the 2021 revised budget as presented, made by Holly, seconded by Jennifer. Any other discussion? Seeing none, then we will begin the roll call vote with Jennifer Tift.
Aye.
Mr. Bryant.
Aye.
Ms. Buck.
Aye.
Mr. Derricks.
Aye.
Ms. Ostendorf.
Aye.
Ms. Tower.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so that passes 7-0. And then thank you, Jackie, for continuing on, as our next item on our agenda is the 5-year budget projections.
All right, so every year when we look at the revised budget, we also looked at projecting our budget out into the future so we can make decisions and planning for next school year. As we looked as a finance committee at things that impact our budget, such as enrollment, as of our report on February 15th, we were down 118 students from where we ended school in May of 2020. Our budget for enrollment, we are down 162 students from where we ended last year budget-wise. Our plan, to be conservative, is to hold this enrollment steady for the 21-22 school year, not knowing if students will come back or not. We're also planning on a state aid increase of 0% for the next biennium. Now that was before the February forecast came out. It is looking hopeful that we may get a little more from the state government with a positive February forecast. But just to give you some context, a 1% increase in the state aid formula would add about $268,800 to our revenue budget with our projected enrollment. And like we talked about before, the preliminary ESSER or the preliminary allocations for the COVID funds that we may receive that were passed by the federal legislature in December is between 1.2 and 1.5 million. And it is not factored into these projections as we don't have exact figures or timing on when that will be available. The first document I have pulled up for you, let me backtrack a little bit. This is not meant to have approval or recommendations tonight. It's meant to start the discussion. So I'm going to be presenting a lot of information for you to digest and ask questions. We're hoping that at next week's meeting, the board can maybe set a target for us to aim for as an administrative team. One of these scenarios, or maybe a scenario that I am not presenting. And then at the workshop, we're going to talk more about what the administrative team is recommending to meet the board's target number, the target dollar amount. And then we're looking for approval of the package then at the April 5th meeting. Karsten, did I lay out that timeline correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you, Jackie.
Did we want to talk a little bit about why we're on this timeline, quick, Karsten, in terms of teacher renewals and different things like that?
Yeah, the some of the timing can be flexible, but there's one part that cannot be, or there's limited flexibility, and that has to do if we're recommending, the elimination of position that would lead to the loss of a position by a tenured teacher. We have to meet particular statutory timelines. And so if we can make decisions in early April, we'll be able to meet those timelines for sure, because teachers have the right to a hearing and those kinds of things. I'm not saying that it's a drop dead deadline, but, we kind of want to meet that. The other big factor is that, we want to make some of these decisions sooner rather than later. First, because we know we have to make some difficult positions, and we want to let our staff members know as soon as possible. I know that there's a lot of concern among the staff because, which is normal, when you have unknown situations and people are worried about their own positions, what they're going to do next year, what school are they going to be at, all those important things. And so we think that we're able to treat our staff members better if we can make decisions sooner rather than later. The challenging part, though, like we've already talked about, is that we know we're getting some COVID relief funds. And so we're going to have to come up with, kind of a balancing act as far as when we make those decisions. Or do we make some decisions and then we get more information about the revenues and then we can bring some positions back? Those are some tough decisions we're going to have to make in the next month or two.
Arlen, you're in the queue.
Thank you. So, I guess this is a workshop item this month, the way it sounded. I would like some information coming in there. I've been told that we could save quite a bit of money if we got rid of the block system at the high school and went to a 7-period day. Is my understanding we can save money if we continue on the 2-tier bus system that we're currently using. This is all assuming that we aren't dealing with COVID social distancing in the future. I don't know if it's an option to consider going to the 7-period day next year, or if we're out a year on that, but I think that discussion should come back out again. Rather than just try to continue the status quo, we need to figure out how to deliver and spend less money in the process. And I know I've asked for us to figure out how to get our own online learning program going with our own teachers and utilize them. And I think that's essential for us long-term to have our own program that other people will maybe want to use and hopefully bring people into our district. So make sure we got some money to allocate towards those things. So just throwing that for ideas or for our discussions going forward. I don't need anything tonight. Thank you.
Yep, I do have a quick reaction though to some of your points, Arlen. First, as far as the high school schedule, George did mention, it wasn't the focus of the discussion, but he did mention during the program of studies approval that we would be going to either a 7-period or an 8-period day. Again, with a thinking that we'd like to reduce expenditures while protecting, electives for our kids. And so that's already in the works. So that's good news. As far as the bus system is concerned, the assumption going in is that we'll stay with a 2-tier bus system. I'm expecting that will save money, even if and this is the plan, even if and when we reduce the walking zone for kids in grades K through 6 down to 1 mile instead of 2 miles. It's a high priority for the administrative team. It's an equity issue. And so we really want to do that. If we don't have to follow those social distancing guidelines like we did this year, we're confident we can reduce costs and transportation, and that would be a very good route to go. I will say I may not have the actual number of buses to be reduced by that time because we lost our transportation router. She resigned from her position, and so they're reassigning some people to do that work. So I'd hate to come back and say with a new router that we can cut this many buses when I don't know for sure we're going to be able to do that. And I want them to get accurate numbers. And then finally, with online learning, we'll be having a presentation in likely April to share the latest status of the online learning school that we will be part of. We're confident that the state will approve it, but we're waiting for final approval, and we will be having, or our plan is to have our teachers teaching those subjects. So anyway, just wanted to give a quick reaction to what you suggested, Arlen. I think we're kind of walking along the same path.
Other comments, questions for Jackie or Finance Committee? Karsten, about any of this?
Yeah, administrators have been meeting periodically. We're using a lot of the information that Jackie has prepared, and we do have a tentative plan, for the April 5th meeting. I will add that, the number of, or determining how many online only teachers we need will be a huge decision point. And I'll give you an example. If we have 3rd grade classes, and if our target class size is 24 or 25, whatever the number is, the problem we have is that, the online only class might only have 12. Well, we're going to want to run that class of 12 because otherwise they may go to an online charter school or choose a different school. And the problem is that if we have only 12 kids in that class, then that bumps up the average for the in-person classes. And so one possibility might be to, make our spending reductions, but then hire back some online only teachers so that we don't have a big bump in our class size numbers. So, but again, it comes down to financing, and Jackie and the building leaders and I will be working on that over the next few weeks.
Mr. Bryant, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering if Jackie is done. I'll let her finish probably first, and then maybe we should have discussion.
Yeah, I had more to present if you guys are ready to move forward.
I do have comments, but I'll wait till Jackie's done.
Okay. The first document I have pulled up on your screen here is the fund balance projections we did with the 2018 referendum. I just wanted these up for your reference. You're looking at the end of year, this EOY end of year unrestricted unassigned fund balance there of 1.972 is what we had promised with our 2018 referendum plan. I'm going to exit that, pull up a different document here for you. So we looked at 5 scenarios in the Finance Committee. The first budget projection was, what if we did nothing? What if we made no cuts? There it is. So the line we want to look at here is, what is fund balance equity? So we're looking to end this year at somewhere around 4.4 million. If we made no cuts going into next year, we would end the year with a fund balance equity of just under $700,000. We would not be making our fund balance goal reserve, and we would not make it for years to come. So that was if we make no changes. Scenario number one here would be to reduce $4 million. What this would do is it would make our budget next year break even, or very close to break even. Didn't scan very well, it's crooked. So we would end this year with 4.4 million. Next year would be about 5.1. We'd add about 710,000 to our fund balance. This would maybe hold us for 2 years, but then you see we do fall off again. Part of the fall off when we get to the later years of this projection is our referendum comes up for renewal. So right now it's showing our current referendum falling off as we get later in the plan. So we'll probably start having discussions in a year, maybe 18 months to 2 years about what that looks like and when we want to go for renewal. But that's why when you're seeing year 4 and year 5 at multi-million-dollar deficits, it's because the current referendum fell off. Each of these, for your reference, does have also this information in a graph. Shows our fund balance is going up and then dropping off. If you are a better, you read data better by pictures. The second scenario I presented to the Finance Committee was for 2.2 million. This is the scenario I would recommend because it brings us back to a fund balance equity that is similar to what we had in our 2018 referendum plan. The spend down is similar. It will hold us over for 1 year, but then you'll see we would have to make cuts in the 22-23 school year. But is it definite cuts? No, because 1, we may have COVID funds still available, and 2, we don't know what our enrollment's going to be. Are those kids that we lost going to come back? Is a percentage of them going to come back, or are we going to see further decline? That is a question every school district in Minnesota is struggling with right now. So that is scenario. The second scenario. The third scenario would be to reduce $1 million. And why $1 million? Because that is the amount of extra staffing and continuing expenses we've added this year due to COVID. So extra elementary teachers, extra paraprofessionals, extra building expenses, extra custodians. This would be a little better than doing nothing at all, but we still would not meet our fund balance goal of 5%. We would be, it looks like, just shy. Our goal reserve amount would be 1.88 million, and this would give us a fund balance equity of 1.75.
Jackie or Karsten, can I just ask really quickly to give us a fund balance 101, kind of just very quickly walk us through, how we came up with our goal and why that's important?
Yep.
I think Jackie can answer that.
So we have unreserved fund balance. It's what you would call your savings in your personal life, your rainy day fund. The other importance of it is cash flow. So in any given year, the state will pay us 90% of what we're owed, and that extra 10% will come in the following year. So we need our savings to cash flow until we get that extra 10% from the state the following year. Probably almost 10 years ago now, the Government Accounting Standards Board required that each district have a fund balance policy, each governmental entity, because it's the Government Accounting Standards Board. And Red Wings passed their fund balance policy at 5%. So 5% of our current year expenses we hold in reserve for that rainy day fund, and then also for cash flow for that next year till we get the what the state owes us on the prior year.
Thank you, Jackie.
Does that, yep.
I would add that 5% is relatively low compared to a lot of districts. The problem is increasing that percentage, leads to more painful decisions. And sometimes you have to make those tough decisions, but just want to let you know.
The one I have pulled up now would be scenario 4, which is $3 million, which was another scenario I proposed just because it was between the 2.2, but it wasn't as harsh as going all the way to the 4 to balance the budget. This would next year bring us to our fund balance goal. We'd have a ending fund balance equity of just over 4 million. I didn't show you this on the other lines, but since we're talking fund balance percentage, this green line here shows our fund balance percentage be 8.42. But then again, we would have to be having conversations again based on what we know this time next year about if we need to make further reductions for the following school year. Some context for you, the Big 9 business managers met on Friday, and budget reductions and who's doing what was one of the topics we discussed. Out of the other 8 school districts, they are proposing cuts of anywhere from $1 million to $8 million for next school year. 2 districts have chosen to deficit spend their fund balance and ride it out for a year before making decisions. The other piece I have in here is kind of a draft of potential budget reductions. These are not decided on at all, but just the working copy of what the administration is working on. You'll see at the top here of what we have added due to COVID. And then you'll see that's just over $1 million. Then due to class size ratios, to just right to our current enrollment, assuming we don't have to do social distancing again next year and we can go back to our typical class size ratios, we could do 3 additional elementary teachers, and assuming a 7 or 8 period day at the high school, we could do up to 12 high school teachers. We also have in there, once we know how many bus routes we can reduce, those are at $60,000 per route we would save. So I know that is a ton of information to digest. That is the end of documents I had to present, so I will entertain questions.
Jim, you're in the queue. Do you want to say what you were waiting to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wow, this is what you all signed up for? Yeah, we had quite a discussion at the Finance Committee. The enrollment part, and this is for Superintendent Anderson too, and looking through the administrative reports, Dawn Wettern did a survey on kids that left. Great job getting that information, but we need to do something with that. And I'm hoping this board will either give direction or however we do it, that there's communication and actually worked on an admin team trying to come up with the reasons why that is happening and what we can do to turn that tide. Because it's unfortunately, you know, it's the way it is. We're going to lose more children. I'd like to try to do what we can beforehand, then be more proactive than reactive. And I'm hoping the admin team will start discussing that. And if they have, at least report back to us what they've done. A couple other things. I'll just be honest. I'm willing. I'm more inclined to look at the 3 million one. 4 would be ideal, but I think we just got to 4 is too much. 2.2 is not enough because you got to come back down the road. And we're not here to make a decision tonight, but there's a lot of different things going forward. And Karsten talked about it. I was going to hit on the fund balance. 5% is on the low end. Is really like kind of like the minimum. You want to go up. It's just like, okay, like it's a savings account, like was mentioned during the conversation. What we do next year during the workshop and what we decide in early April, we still got to look at something next year. So I would propose that we consider softening the blow for the following years by addressing the shortfall this year, coming year, in the finance part of it. Because you do need cash flow. You do need to have a fund balance. You don't want to spend that all down. But also we've got other things on the table we can look at. You got the Jefferson building. You've got, there's a bunch of other things that we can look at. But tonight's not the night for it. It's just kind of to digest it, take it in, and bring back an idea for us to discuss at the next meeting, for them to bring back more things, more recommendations for us at the workshop on the 22nd. So, I got more, but I think I'll let it be. The enrollment part is huge, just so you know. That is the real piece that we can't get our hands around, because that relates to funding. The more kids go, the less funding comes. We can't keep doing as we've been doing with less and less students. So we have to make some serious decisions. And I'm going to sit back and relax now and have a drink of water. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Holly.
I will just jump in. And if you were to scroll back to page 35 and 36, and maybe Jackie can do it or Carson can do it, but those are the notes from our finance committee meeting that can kind of give you a frame of reference for all the things that we were talking about. One of the things that we didn't talk about tonight yet in terms of this budget is that the Montessori school has submitted their application, and they've sent notice to us that they will be opening. And they're right now early childhood through 5th grade. And I think they have 67 students right now, not including the little tiny people, which I think is 17. So if we were to look at E5 for next year and average 20 kids per class, what's that like? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking at 150 students that could potentially be bouncing from us and bouncing down the road. So when Jackie proposed the 2.2, my head was like, Jim, like, oh, I want to even be a little bit more conservative, because I don't know what that's going to look like if kids decide to go and we don't stay competitive for a variety of reasons. And so I was thinking more in lines with Jim. Like he said, we're not making any decisions tonight, but it's just something to think about. And if you look at pages 35 and 36 in the board packet, that's just the notes from what we talked about at the finance committee to give you a little bit more to think about. So does anybody have any questions for me or for anybody with that information? And I can present it too. I don't know if we can't find it, or is everybody finding it? Oh, Jackie, you're awesome. You're awesome. And it's nothing real earth-shattering that's in this little document here for notes, or what do we call them? Yeah, committee notes. But it's just some other information. And one of the things was the charter school that we discussed at the meeting quite in depth. And like Jim said, Dawn did a lot of good work with the other person who worked with her, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, and I apologize.
Melinda Johnson.
Melinda Johnson, yes. You know, did a lot of work trying to figure out where people are going and why they're leaving. And it wasn't a heavy percentage that were leaving because they were disappointed in us. There was a variety of reasons why people were choosing to leave the district. And there were a variety of reasons why people were choosing to come into the district. You know, if it's housing or daycare or jobs or, you know, variety of reasons.
Thanks, Holly. Anna?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you mentioned some of the things that Dawn said, Holly, because I talked to Dawn as well, because I've been really interested in this too. And, you know, there are certainly some people who left the district because they wanted their kids in person more than we were. But there are also people who left the district because they wanted their kids distance in a way that we weren't providing. Right. So it's not like there was one thing that our district did that drove people away. It's a really complex situation. And especially, you know, with students enrolling in like the distance education that's not provided through Red Wing, you know, will they come back or not? That's, I think, a really big question. But so I just wanted to say the things that you already kind of did, that it's not one thing. It's not like, oh, we just need to do X and Y will happen, that it's really a much more complicated thing than that. And I kind of wanted to also make sure that, you know, people watching know that, you know, everybody has their opinions about what's right or wrong in our district, but the reason that people choose to leave or come into the district really varies widely. It's not one thing.
Well said. That's a really interesting report. Will the whole board be able to get a summary of that report, Karsten, or be able to talk about that? Can that be something that we discuss at the board level at some point soon?
Yeah, at some point we were going to talk about it as during a workshop, but we could certainly bring it up earlier because I don't think it's scheduled yet.
Okay. Let's discuss that tomorrow and kind of get it on an agenda, because I think it's really good information to kind of get that full report and understand why people are leaving. But, you know, that's only part of the issue. The part that, you know, is interesting that we have to address is how do we follow up with all those families and, you know, talk about meeting needs and what is it that we can help provide that they're getting elsewhere.
Yeah, just to piggyback, Pam, there wasn't anything that stuck out.
Yeah.
You know, and which was kind of surprising to me. I thought there would be a couple things that would just like, you know, oh my gosh, we didn't do, or wow, we're doing, but they didn't stick out to us like that.
Right.
So I think what we have a hunch on, you know, our equity work, our online process, you know, the stuff that we are starting to really move into is only going to make us better.
Agreed.
But it's going to take a while.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Any other discussions on the 5-year budget projections? Like Jackie said, this is a lot to wrap our heads around. And as we continue to go through all of, you know, we've gone through all of the handouts that are in our board packet, but as we go along and continue looking at those and studying them, I know that Jackie and Karsten will be available, and Holly as the finance committee chair, to answer our questions and talk about our concerns and, you know, keep this conversation going, because we'll have some big challenging decisions to make in the coming weeks ahead. Jackie, you're in the queue.
I just wanted to remind the board there is a resolution attached to this on reducing programs. It is a blanket resolution that just says that we are considering reducing programs. It does not specify what programs or what positions.
It's on
But
page 112.
Yep, it will get us started in the process.
And can I make the motion?
Yes.
Recommendation. Anybody else want to do it?
Go ahead, Holly.
I move to approve the resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons therefore.
Do we have a second?
Anna, second.
Motion made by Holly, seconded by Anna. Any other discussion?
Just Madam Chair, I can
Yep.
Okay, I'm fine. That's fine. If you want to do the recommendation, I'm not so sure it's necessary, but that's fine because we know we have to do something, and they've already proposed, some discussions to the finance committee that they bring forward, and then piggyback on top of that. But if you want to make the recommendation, I'm not sure it's necessary. We can just direct staff to do it without a motion, but I think they heard us loud and clear that something has to be done, but that's fine. We'll vote on it.
All right. Motion made by Holly, seconded by Anna. Anything else? Seeing nothing else, then I will start the roll call vote with Mr. Bryant.
Aye.
Ms. Buck,
Aye.
Mr. Derricks,
Aye.
Ms. Ostendorf,
Aye.
Ms. Tower,
Aye.
Ms. Titz,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. So the resolution passes 7-0. Next is the request for proposals for banking services. Back to you, Jackie.
All right. As part of our organizational meeting, the suggestion was made that the finance committee look at doing a bank RFP. We conducted that RFP from the end of January to about mid-February and analyzed the results at our February finance committee meeting. We are bringing them forward to you today. If we take a look at our current bank, which is First Farmers and Merchants Bank, this got cut off. So we sent that not the one I wanted. I want the other one. 1 minute. So I sent the RFP to all of the banks listed here. It was any bank that had a branch I could find in Red Wing. We received responses from 4 of the banks, including our current bank, First Farmers and Merchants. You can see the estimated monthly fees and interest rates, online services we'd take advantage of, other services, and then the other notes mostly based on interest rate. The recommendation from the finance committee is to continue with our current bank, First Farmers and Merchants.
Any questions for the finance committee or Jackie? It doesn't look like there's any recommendation or motion.
No, we approved First Farmers and Merchants back in January, so there is no need to approve it again.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions then for Jackie or Holly? Arlen?
I see Arlen put his name in.
Arlen?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I don't think I saw it in the other proposals, but First Farmers and Merchants also has I believe it's a 1 million line of credit available to us at prime plus 0.5%, if I remember right. And that is could be a very beneficial thing to the district going forward. No, it was in the past, not knowing how our funds are going to be for cash flow. So I think that if I'm correct, that was only through them that was offered. I might be wrong. If I am, correct me.
The others had it available, but we'd have to go through an application process.
Okay. All right. So I'm a little bit in error that we can get it other places. I also would like to encourage our district as we do our stuff. I know it was a peeve of me several years ago to find out we had copier leases at 10 and 12% interest, and we had a line of credit. We could borrow money for 4 or 5. So I think we should make sure we try to make absolutely sure that we are not borrowing money and paying out money to do certain things or under the guise of another name like a lease. I think we should investigate them to make sure that we need to find it. There are really ways of financing, and what is the real benefit? Some people say you get a better price if you lease. Well, maybe it is, but we need to make sure we stay cognizant of that as we continue on.
Thank you, Arlen. Anything else for Jackie on the banking services? Then we'll move on to credit card holders.
All right, we also discussed this over a couple months at the finance committee on how we should review these annually and also what the limits should be and how they should be more uniform by position. So this is the proposed listing with more uniformity by position that was reviewed by the finance committee meeting in February. And Holly and Jim, I think I worded this correctly on how we want it to be, how it was proposed to be reviewed annually by the finance committee and then brought forward to the board as necessary. Was that how we worded it? Holly, you're on mute if you're speaking.
I'm so tired. Okay. Yes. What page is this?
I don't know because I don't use the board packet by pages.
220. 220.
220. Okay. I was all over the place, annoyed. Yes, Jackie, I'm almost positive that's exactly what we said. Jim and Nikki, do you guys remember?
Yeah, I think it was kind of discussion was brought up, Madam Chair, was about from Karsten saying other districts and Jackie, other districts, how there was some changes that to bring it back to the board, but to review it annually at the finance, and if we felt there's enough change, if there's a change and maybe make a different recommendation, we present to the board at that time. That's my recollection. Nikki might have some different take on it.
Nope, I think that's the way I remember it too, Jim.
All right, I'll make the motion. I move to approve the list of credit card holders as presented and authorize that the list be reviewed by the finance committee annually.
I'll second.
Discussion, and I see Anna, you're in the queue.
Thank you. So one of our topics of conversation when this kind of originally came up is why this is necessarily a board decision. And I think, the positions and the limits, I think make sense for us to have, but I'm just wondering if we need to approve who those specific card holders are, because let's say, one of the people, well, right now we don't have a director of special education, or we just have one that was just hired. But if we vote on this tonight, her name isn't on this list. So I'm wondering if, maybe this is something you guys discussed already in the finance committee, if you can talk about that. Or, I think if I'm recalling correctly that Jackie had said that, not all school districts have this as a thing that needs to get approved by the board. So I'm just wondering if we can have that conversation so that we're not having to review this every time a position changes or, with personnel changes. I feel like this might be an internal thing and not something that the board needs to micromanage.
Do you want me to take that, Holly?
Yeah, I just attended the treasurer's workshop for MSBA, and they said, yes, do this annually. Look at who the card holders, look at the amounts, look at, all the positions. But I agree with you, every time there's a change in personnel, do we need to bring it back to revise it? or can that be part of the annual, look at, and then trust that when they're changing the names in this document and changing the cards, that maybe the notes on the bottom say this person left at this time, the card was canceled at this time, and then this person, took over for the card. So annually we can kind of see the notes. That's just a suggestion, but they said, yes, keep this, because I asked, and they said, yeah, keep it in. So
with the individuals named. They suggested having the individuals named.
Yeah.
Okay.
Arlen.
Yeah, I am trying to grasp or clarify this. Did I hear the motion right that it's going to be reviewed by the finance committee annually, or is it coming back to the board? And I guess the motion in the packet doesn't say that, so or what I read right there right now, so I'm a little confused.
The motion does read that it's from the finance committee. That it'd be reviewed by the finance committee.
And not to the full board.
Right.
Okay, that's how tired I was. I thought it said full board.
I can't go along with that because I'm not delegating my responsibilities to 3 people.
You're right, Arlen.
The board, or we need to continue on without doing it and let the district run itself. I also think if you've been to the treasurer's thing, whatever they say is probably right. But I think in the end, we're issuing the credit card by position, not by name. But if you have to do it by name, we should do it then.
It's actually a combo, and I read the recommendation the way it's written, but it's not supposed to be worded that way. And that could only be because there was a mix of communication. So however, there's a point of order on how we should redo that recommendation so that it comes back to the board annually, not the finance committee annually. The finance would review it, and then it would come to the board and we go, yep, moving on. Does that make sense, Arlen?
I'm very good with that if it goes to the committee to recommend to the board, but not just say reviewed by the committee and equipped.
Can we just add and approved by the board to that? Be reviewed by the finance committee annual and approved by the board annually.
We need a friendly amendment, right? Or we vote on this motion that's on the table and then.
My second is good with that amendment if the motion is the same. The motioner, motion E, motion C. That's you, Holly.
Yes.
You're fine to add reviewed by the finance committee and the board annually.
Correct. And Jackie, I apologize that I didn't read it more clear. It's not your mistake, it's mine.
All right, so the motion.
Sorry, Pam, just to clarify for the minutes here. So reviewed by the finance committee and approved by the board annually? Is that what we would say? Okay.
Great. So now you have the motion that you just read, so we will start the roll call vote with Nikki Buck.
Aye.
Arlen Derricks.
No.
Anna Ostendorf.
Aye.
Holly Tower.
Aye.
Jennifer Tiff.
Aye.
Jim Bryant.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so that passes 6-1. All right, Mr. Kevin Johnson, who's been waiting patiently. Yeah, makeup air unit. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just quickly going to put on the screen so everyone can see it. What we're talking about here is replacing the makeup air unit for the metal shop at the high school. It's original equipment with the high school. It has been little by little degrading. It's something that's on the roof. And I think Arlen mentioned it at our operations meeting. It's got like at the best, a 20-year lifespan, and we're at 27. So it's done quite well. So on February 2nd, we did go out for bids. We had 2 of them, one of them from Cool Air Mechanical for $65,000, and the other was from Sylvander Heating at $47,660. These funds are from our long-term facility maintenance pot of money, LTFM it's called. And I guess I can entertain questions if you have any, because I would be recommending Sylvander Heating, a local contractor, for $47,660, and it would be a project we'd start mid-June, shortly after school is out.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to award the bid to Sylvander Heating for the makeup air unit at the metal shop in the high school for $47,660 to take off of the LTFM. And you, Kevin, you can say those long-term facility maintenance. Is that right? Fund?
Long-term facilities maintenance funding, yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Just another acronym schools use.
All right, motion made by Jim, seconded by Holly. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will start a roll call vote with Mr. Derricks.
Aye.
Anna Ostendorf.
Aye.
Holly Tower.
Aye.
Jennifer Tift.
Aye.
Mr. Bryant.
Aye.
And Nikki Buck.
Aye.
And chair votes aye, so that passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Future topics and upcoming events. Tomorrow, the agenda committee meets. Next Monday, we will meet virtually. Legislative and policy meets at 4:45, and there's a virtual school board meeting at 6. The following Monday, which is the 22nd, the finance committee meets at 4:45, and there will be a school board workshop, 6 p.m. And that is when we have discussed and decided to transfer to a hybrid meeting option. So we'll be hammering out all of those details, hopefully tomorrow, and we will let you know where we'll be meeting and what to bring with you if you can meet in person. And any other upcoming meetings anyone wants to highlight?
Madam
Yep.
Chair, can I
Yep.
clarify the meeting on the 22nd? We will have the option for us to continue remote if we want as a board member.
Yep, that is the hybrid. That's what we'll refer to as the hybrid meeting option. So if you can make it in person, that'd be great. But if you're more comfortable or need to be quarantined for any reason, then you'll have an option for Zooming in.
Okay, I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do here yet. I may want to wait till I get the second shot here before I'll see once on that. Can I clarify something here for tonight on what I did here?
Sure.
I voted no on the last motion from the finance committee on credit card holders. I didn't want to spend a lot of time trying to reword motions and motions again, but I didn't like the way it was worded. I know what the intent is, but I just didn't like the way it was worded. I would like to ask that in the future, when we make our motions, we try to be concise and make them in a way that people can understand them when they review the minutes years down the road. And I think it's just a little vague the way this one is done, but it's important before the vote is taken to get the exact wording that is made, and it becomes important for the person making the motion to give an exact, precise version of what it is so we can work with it better. Thank you.
A question, Madam Chair, for Board Member Derricks. On the recommendation, the only thing added differently was that be reviewed annually by the board. Was that what you voted no against the motion that you actually wanted to see on the table? So I'm just trying to see what that point is, because the motion was amended by suggestions by Board Member Tiff to amend it to review annually by the Finance Committee to brought before the board annual and brought before the annual. So
I'm still not 100% sure on the wording, but it's something about it should have wording recommending to the school board, not just the board. And I'm maybe nitpicky, and that's why I voted no. I'm just explaining why I like precise meaning to a motion that's understandable at a later date.
If you don't ask a question, you never find the answer.
No, and if I didn't say that now, you'd say I was just, why did he vote no? And I thought I should clarify it, and it's been bothering me a little bit that our motions are sometimes hard to interpret for the chair to get it. And it's a good procedure to really state exact wording of it instead of a general wording, because a general worded motion really is unsure what it is.
Thank you, Arlen. I will definitely make that note and do a better job of making sure we've got that motion hammered out before we vote on it. So thank you for that feedback. Any other upcoming meetings or future topics? All right, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Holly. Do I have a second?
Anna, second.
Right, made by Holly, seconded by Anna. Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Buck?
Aye.
Mr. Derricks?
Aye.
Ms. Ostendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Tower?
Aye.
Ms. Tift?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We are adjourned. It's 8:59. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Good night.